I don't know what is going to be proposed in the budget. I know we're under 60 days right now, but what I hear is being brought to us is just a simple way of just going and let's just raise, call it what it is, but it's taxes. Just raise taxes, and we'll figure it out then. But I don't think that's what the citizens would want us as an elected body. That wouldn't be the first approach to take. That's the easy approach. That's what I sometimes call the low-hanging fruit, or it's easy to throw money at it and fix it. That's not what we're able to do. And you're asking the council to make some decisions that's just kind of one direction. Let's just raise taxes. And we haven't even begun to look at where we're at in our upcoming budget. And that's very hard to do. I like this as far as the options here because, look, this is drastic, like you said, Mr. City Manager, and there's a lot of things here, but maybe if you start pulling a little bit here, a little bit there, maybe look on the operations side, just mix it up a little bit, you may come up with that target money that you need, and we got that problem solved. So, and then you don't have to start talking about urban service districts or I guess in this case, just further taxing the reserve. We talked about that earlier with the Integrated Waste Fund. The same thing's happening there. We really we're going to be challenged. We're going to be challenged to find out how we're going to make the necessary cuts across the board. And I think the citizens are going to look at this. When they look at it, that's the question they're going to ask. That's what they're going to ask council. So it's difficult for us to sit here and say, okay, we're just going to make a decision. Let's just do it. Let's just raise the integrated waste fee and solve the problem. Let's just expand the urban service districts and solve the problem. It's not that easy. So that's this year. I know, I'm a little disappointed because I asked a question at our last council meeting dealing with the matter of the request on servicing garbage trucks. And I know a lot was said. I'm a little disappointed because I asked a question for 2 or 3 years now, how many garbage trucks have been budgeted? 0. This upcoming budget, how many garbage trucks are going to be budgeted? 0. And, that just tells me if you've got a problem, you can chip away at it over time. And we've done a lot of things. We've done a lot of things in increased fees, and we've told citizens that we're going to save money, and we're saving money. But they want to know, what are you doing with it? So, these are the type of options that I'm looking for as a council representative to make a decision. I'm just not going to, early on in the process, just go ahead and make a decision on raising fees, because that's strictly on the sales side of how you're trying to generate revenue. I think there's some other things on here. We talked about one of the things. We're going to get to that list, and he's going through the list. Well, this is from Dr. Wardsley. I think he hasn't gotten to that list yet.
There's actually $3.5 million in cuts, not revenue enhancement. $3.5 million in cuts that are listed in this presentation.
Mayor, that's irrelevant. That's good.
No, it's not. It's $3.5 million of reductions.
Well, do we need to fast forward to that?
Can I finish my conversation,
Yeah, let's
please?
let him, and then I would like to respond, and then I'll turn it back
point?
over to you when we're ready. Go ahead, Councilor Davis.
Can I finish my point?
Yeah, you got the floor. Go ahead.
It's not. It is irrelevant to what I'm trying to say overall, not to what's being proposed. I just said these options are good. This is what I'm starting to look for. We may be able to find a solution here in a combination of all this. That's what I said earlier. But it's not just there. It's public works. There's other areas in the city. But again, what you're asking this council to do is, it's not easy without seeing the rest of the picture, if that makes sense. And I don't know what that is. I keep asking those questions, but I really don't know what that is at this point. I think that I would certainly be opposed to the anything involving the youth fees across the board. I think we've talked about that many, many times. We have talked about looking at adult services, and even we talked about, I don't see anything if we increased maybe the membership fees over at the Aquatic Center. We talked about that. I would hope that the task force would work on that maybe and also throw that in the equation. But, you know, from where I sit, you know, it's hard to make these decisions that are being, you know, look, we can make them,
Yeah,
but we're going to have to see the whole picture at the same time.
sure.
And that's just, there's no other way to do it unless you're just asking us just to continue to raise these fees or to erase taxes.
Okay. All right. First of all, as I said, there's $3.5 million of suggested or at least identified potential cuts here, so council can accept some or all of them and reallocate those funds at any time. There was a lot of talk about the integrated waste presentation in which there were some revenue enhancements, including the urban service district. For some reason, it got on this particular PowerPoint presentation, but it should have been with the integrated waste proposal, which is and would be a revenue enhancement. It's been talked about for several years. Actually, the 2015 mayor's recommended budget had a capital improvement plan that was proposed and funded, and it wasn't funded by council. And so there's probably been 12, 15 years of talks about funding garbage trucks. And I know that the few times we've done it, it's had to come out of the general fund because the integrated waste fund isn't properly funded. So that's a structural issue that we are trying to resolve, and then that presentation was a few minutes ago. But this presentation is involving what we were directed by council to do, which was to go into the Parks and Rec budget and see where cuts could be made for funding 45 hours, 56 hours, or 89 hours of operation. So council can make a choice between whether they want a private company or Parks and Rec to run it. Council can make a choice as to how many hours they would like to run this facility. There's 3 options on the floor. And then council can make a choice as to what cuts they would like to make, if any, to fund anything over 45 hours. And so that's what we're trying to do today, is put down the options for finding $500,000 or so to fund other options. And there's a whole lot of opportunities in here that have nothing to do with revenue enhancement whatsoever. It has to do with cost reduction and expense reallocation. So it's not about raising taxes as it relates to this, unless, of course, you're talking about increasing fees, membership fees to the Aquatic Center, or membership fees for some of the other programs, and those revenues can be reallocated. But most of these are reallocating currently incurred expenses. So I think there is a balance of cost reduction and reallocation as well as revenue enhancement. Mr. City Manager, you want to make a presentation at this time?
Well, I would just only comment that you've got a list of options because we were asked to bring back options at the very last meeting. And so we're doing what we were asked to do. And that's why I intervened before Dr. Worsley started his presentation to say, don't kill the messenger. Because we were asked to consider prioritizing services or programs, and we'd have to make the decision and bring something back for you to review, and that's what we're doing. And so that's why you have the list, and you have it prior to getting into the budget hearings, because we were asked to bring this, and we were trying to obviously deal with the Aquatic Center because it's something that needs to be dealt with now. And Dr. Worsley started his presentation out saying that we are going to continue to do what we're doing through June 30th, but we need the time between now and June 30th that we can start July 1st, the new fiscal year off, with the aquatic center being where we need it to be or in the hands of who's going to operate it. And so that's our goal, and that's why we're discussing it now prior to getting into the budget hearings. And I know that, Mayor, we only have a few councilors left, and one will have to leave. And I think this is really, that list is a discussion that all council members need to be involved in the discussion on.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I know, and you know, I hate to, because I know we're ready to go and we really need to do this as soon as possible. But I know this, whether it's recognized today or not, there's absolutely been vehement council positions that are in directly opposing directions. And so, and which is fine, but those are the things that require council vote, because it's one thing when we sit around the table and say, what's everybody think about this idea? And one says, well, I think it's all right, and nobody else says anything. But it's another when we have counselors saying, you know, over my dead body this, and somebody saying over my dead body that. You know, we got to have some direction at that point.
And so
But
I guess my preference would be to delay, not to continue this presentation and wait until we convene again when we've got enough, more council members here, and they can all weigh in on the list of options that we've got, and that would be my preference at this time. And so we'll delay my final presentation as well, and just come back the fourth Tuesday.
Okay. All right. We've got a couple of counselors. We got Councilor Davis and then Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. City Manager, and look, I was just making that as an observation. This is what, honestly, this meeting today is this is good. These options are good. This is a start. This is what I'm looking for. I guess if you're asking where do you go from here, I mean, I would look at this and just try to enhance it, to try to narrow it, refine it, to narrow it down what will make the least impact to the programs and services that are out there. Anywhere you can raise some fees, not with the children, not with the youth groups. I wouldn't approve that. Maybe the rest of the council might, but I wouldn't. But anywhere you can raise it a little bit, even the membership fees across the board, and maybe shut some more hours down instead of closing these facilities. Maybe just shut the hours down on them some. I can't tell you how to do that. That's kind of what I was saying. I can't do that job.
Well,
But when I look at this, I can't pull pieces out of here, but this is a good start. I will trust the director and the executive management to further refine it, to find that. I think we're close to finding the money needed to fill that gap. And that's what I said. It might be a combination of all of them, and then it wouldn't overly stress it, because the mayor did say there's 3.5 here, and you need what?
500.
At least
We need a
$440,000, something like that.
yeah, and I'll say, and the comment was made regarding the outdoor pools. I mean, that's on the list because from somewhere around this table,
A
someone
counselor
said,
asked.
close the outdoor pool.
Well, I didn't say that.
Well,
No,
someone
but a
around the
counselor
table
did
said
say
so.
that.
Maybe
Put
cut
that on
And
the list.
so,
cut back
and so
on the
that's why
hours.
that's on the list. And so we were
And-
operating at direction.
Right.
From this
And you
body.
did good. I mean, this is good. I'm saying
Yeah.
this is a great start. I would ask you to refine it a little bit
Sure.
more until we can zero in with the least impact on programs and services, and maybe spread it. You know, if it's going to be painful, just spread it across the board. But I do mean it from the standpoint of it is hard to make the decisions that's being brought to us without understanding where the executive administration is going with the upcoming budget and how we're going to deal with that, because that's going to play important. You know, we're just looking at the revenue side. I've said that. I haven't seen the expenditure side yet. I haven't seen anything on what I would call the overhead and operations side. You know, we're talking about it, revenue all the time, and that's, you know, that's just at the end of the day, that's taxes and a further strain on the citizens of Columbus.
Well,
I think
you know,
that's what we're trying to avoid, the least possible way, and to work within our means. And it may be painful, but you may have to make some decisions that can help reduce the impact on these challenges.
I can tell you, if it's helpful for you all to think about as we look towards the mayor's recommended budget, that there will be no revenue to go around to fund additional things. If you want additional services, programs, or trucks, then cuts will have to be made. The operation revenue we have coming in either does not or barely by the skin of our teeth operates what we currently have. And it, our best case scenarios is that it's short of what we need, but not by much. So there will be absolutely no gravy whatsoever to fund anything additional. And if there are additional hours that we want to fund or additional position that we want to fund, then some position or program will have to be cut in whole or in part. So if that helps, that's where we are, because we don't have any general fund reserves to fund things as we've done for many, many years, and we're having to replenish. So we're taking some of the savings from some of the great reforms that we've implemented that would be going in to the reserve fund to replenish even more. We're actually having some positive effect, but now we're having to replenish from being in a negative position to bring us back up to 60 days. So, like I said, at least it's not heading in the opposite direction, but we haven't filled it up enough to have any surplus to spread among these other programs and capital expenditures that we want to make. So if you want more garbage trucks, particularly millions and millions and millions of dollars of garbage trucks, they have to be funded from somewhere, or millions and millions and millions of dollars of cuts have to be made in order to redirect those revenues to somewhere else. So that's where we're going to be with the budget. There's not going to be any additional monies. Okay. Let's see, Mayor Pro Tem.
Is it okay if I ask a question about
Sure.
something on here?
Mm-hmm.
On the hotel motel tax, the total percentage we get now is 8. Okay. And the recommendation is to take out of that 8%, 1% to go for Parks and Recreation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you could shave it, shave them all. Or,
yes.
What? Go ahead.
Well, the aquatic center is from an economic development standpoint, in terms of meeting the standard to qualify for hotel motel tax, is no different than the Civic Center.
So we don't have to do a
trade
whole 1%.
That's right. You could take a percentage, a portion of a penny,
Okay.
and redirect it. Yes,
Because they do bring hotel rooms into the city.
exactly. And so
for some
that
of the events.
yes. And Mayor, I really want to say this because we're not going to finish this presentation today. There are a lot of things on this list that would be drastic things that we know that you're not going to consider. But we put together a list of things just so that for you to look at and determine if at 100% or something slightly less, like what the Mayor Pro Tem is talking about with the hotel motel tax. And I'm making this statement because Dr. Worsley has not shared the reduction options with Parks and Rec employees, and you would not have had a story in the newspaper even about the after-school program had that not gotten out somehow, and I don't know how it got out, and I got the call from the media asking the question, and so I talked about it because I was asked the question. But we don't want to leave today when we cut this presentation short with, because we've got on here, for example, close senior centers, close all 4 senior centers. Well, we know that's not about to happen. But it's on the list just for, and I prefaced Dr. Worsley's presentation by saying it's a discussion. We're just having a discussion. And so we were going to just have a discussion, and a lot of those things I'm sure you are going to say, we don't want to talk about that. And so when we talk about the pools, closing the outdoor pools, or close the senior centers, or eliminate golf course subsidy or whatever, we were just going to have a discussion. So I don't want the story to be that we're going to cut all these things. We were just bringing those things for discussion only. And so,
if I may say, I appreciate you all bringing them.
yeah, just for discussion.
But however, for discussions, if we had a pot of gold sitting someplace that we could give Parks and Rec, we would. The people who call me about the natatorium prefer our Parks and Recreation Department to handle it because they have been so professional. We've outsourced it before, and we had a hard time. We had to come back in-house to straighten it out. So it's like on one side, let Parks and Rec do it because they've done a good professional job. But I know they cannot continue to run it like they're running it with the funds that they have to run it, because that means that Beck and Holly are not necessarily doing what they are supposed to be doing on the other side of their job. But the people in the community really wants Parks and Rec to run it. And I know they want them to run it because we haven't had the kind of problems we had when somebody else was running it. And when that other company was hired, we were told that they were supposed to be the top-notch company in the country.
That's right.
To run natatoriums.
Mm-hmm. Number one. All right, thank you. And also to piggyback on what the city manager was saying, I just want to say, for instance, I know there was an article in the media about fully implementing the transition on the after-school programs. But when we do go through these things, you will see, as you will see on that one, that already the school district was taking back their after-school programs. So it was just a matter of whether we complete that process this year or allow it to go on one more year. It was the speed with which it was happening. The transition was taking place, not that we were just going to up and quit them all. So that's the kind of thing I think you'll see when you get into this, that there may be opportunities to reduce hours instead of closing, to reduce subsidies instead of eliminating them altogether, increase fees, maybe not as much, whatever it may be. But there may be an opportunity to take a little bit from these various ways to patch together the $500,000 that we're going to need, whether Parks and Recs does it or Company A does it. Councilor Thomas.
Mr. City Manager and Dr. Worsley, if at our last meeting you heard me say close a pool, either I was not clear in what I was saying or you misunderstood what I said. What I said and what I meant was take a look at perhaps closing a pool, all of the pools, an hour a day. Maybe I did not mean, and Mayor Pro Tem, I would not vote for closing Solomon Road and Shirley Winston and close them completely. I would not vote for that. And if that's what you heard me say,
It wasn't you, Councilor Thomas,
then
if that helps
you
you. It was another
misunderstood
counselor.
what I said.
It was another counselor.
I didn't know that.
I didn't hear you say
I
that
don't
at
think
all.
you said it. I don't know
I never
who said
heard
it.
you say that. I heard another counselor say it quite clearly.
I don't
though.
know who said it.
I do. Okay. All right. So it looks like we're going to postpone for today. And we do not have a quorum, so we cannot continue on with any business. And we cannot even adjourn. So do we stand in continuance? Can adjourn? Okay. Okay, let's see. Councilor Davis, did you have a closing comment?
I do. It was in addition to what I was saying earlier. I think, Madam Mayor, since we had a presentation the prior week where we had a lot of things that was said in public, that could be alarming, and it could also be a liability from a legal standpoint. I think that it's very important, being what's proposed to us as a council, that the right thing to do it would be in order to request our audit department to go over and give us an updated report on all these trucks and the conditions of the trucks and where they're at, just so we can have a record on file and an understanding there, so everybody will be on the same page. I think it's the right thing to do. It would be no different than if you were in the Army and somebody made a complaint on a vehicle. The next day, the IG would be in there doing a full report on every vehicle there and an understanding of it. And I think from that standpoint, that our auditor would be capable of going in there and understanding what we're doing with and dealing with the maintenance logs, et cetera, and just seeing where we're at on the lifespan of all these vehicles. Because if we're, in reality, if we are going to have to make a very difficult decision, I think it would be the right thing to have it documented in a file.
Right.
To help them.
All right. That was a request to have the auditor go and audit our garbage trucks. And we did. We've talked about the presentation that was made a couple of days ago. And just so everybody knows, and I think council knows this, but it's worth saying, if anybody in the city government has knowledge of a risk, then every city councilor and elected official has what's called constructive knowledge. And so it really falls upon the staff to tell us what they know, because if they don't know, we're charged with it from a liability standpoint anyway. So they might as well tell us so we can make decisions to adjust. So just know that if anybody in the city government knows something that's wrong or knows something that's dangerous, they should tell us immediately, because we have constructive knowledge of that. And that's not something that's new or that I'm announcing. I mean, this is a rock bed of American jurisprudence. So it's been around for a couple hundred years, and that's just the way it is.
And Madam Mayor, I'd agree with you 100%. I don't
Yeah.
think that's the case here, and certainly if what you're saying is happening within the government, I would think you are spot on. But in this case, I think it's just the right thing to do from a procedure standpoint, and just having a file documented. There's no implications or anything
Sure.
like that. It's just taking a step in a process that would be orderly and very procedural for this council to request that.
Yeah, we can put it on my agenda for the next business meeting. I'll have Lacey make a note, put it on the mayor's agenda for a request for John Redmond, the auditor, to do a physical audit of our garbage trucks and make record of that.
Well, and Madam Mayor, certainly we welcome that, and he can do that. But I think the most he could do as an auditor with a truck is go and take some photos and
could
share them,
interview some
because he
people.
doesn't have the mechanical knowledge, background, experience to do it. So unless he calls in some outside help.
Well, let's have him to council and let
Yeah.
council, he could, I don't want him to hire anybody, but I guess he could. He could also take statements. So let's have him come
Sure.
and see and talk to council, and they can make a decision about whether they want him to do that. Mayor Pro Tem.
The very next week, after we had the garbage truck presentation, I was on my way downtown on Casita Road. Another garbage truck was being pulled into service.
Madam Mayor, before we close out, I'd like for Director Newman to just announce a street closure that I think has been sent out, news release and all, but we can at least put it on the air.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. As we announced last week, 11th Street did close yesterday in anticipation of about 30 days. Of course, that could increase depending on what we find once we start digging it up. Also, 6th Avenue between 7th Street and 8th Street will be closed effective next Monday for approximately 2 weeks for repairs. There's been a lot of settlement going on, and it's getting to a dangerous level, so we need to get that repaired. Also, I wanted to notify council so we can start notifying business owners and other stakeholders that we plan to start the one-way conversion of 10th Street at the end of the month, and we think that'll take about 30 days, and the plan is to do it 2 blocks at the time. We will start between Veterans Parkway and 6th Avenue, then we will go to 2nd Avenue to Veterans Parkway, and then from Front to 2nd Avenue we think each one will take about a week to complete, and we think it would be better to do it in blocks versus trying to do the whole stretch at one time. So I just wanted you to know so we can start sending out notices and in case you started getting calls. The 29th of February.
Okay. All right. Well, there being no more discussion on any topic, no more business. Excuse me, there being no more business, there being no quorum to adjourn by edict and decree, I hereby declare us adjourned. Thank you very much, and we'll meet in 2 weeks.